Afternoon and welcome to this special event at the Center for Middle Eastern Studies. I'm Professor Emily Gottrich, the chair of the CMES, and I'm very pleased to see so many of you here today. This is a very unique experience, and we're delighted to be able to host this visit from Dr. Mouayad Al Windawi, a scholar based in Jordan and researcher with the Iraqi Center for Strategic Studies. We are very grateful to Dr. Al Windawi for making the visit, and to Peter Bartu, whom I'll introduce in a moment, for organizing this special event. This is something we like to do at the CMES, is not talk about what's going on in the Middle East only from a purely bookish point of view. I'm all for books, but to get people from the region to talk about these areas, people who are deeply involved and engaged in a day-to-day way. We are so fortunate to have visitors like Dr. Al Windawi to come here and really give us that close perspective that you can't get elsewhere. This isn't what you're going to read in the newspapers for the most part. Anyway, I will proceed with introducing Peter, and he will then introduce our special guest in greater detail. Peter Bartu, who I think most of you already know since you're in his class, is a longtime friend of the Center for Middle Eastern Studies and has been instrumental in bringing scholars like Dr. Al Windawi from the Middle East to talk about current events in places like Iraq and Syria. Indeed, Peter himself has long experience in international affairs. In 2011, he was a member of the UN Standby Mediation Team and worked in Benghazi and Tripoli during the Libyan Revolution, in addition to similar assignments in Djibouti, Iraq, and Malawi. In 2008-2009, he led a UNP team that produced a seminal report on the disputed internal boundaries between the Arabs and the Kurds in Iraq, including Kirkuk. From 2001 to 2003, he was a political advisor to the UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, based in Jerusalem. He has worked as a foreign policy advisor in the Australian Prime Minister's Department and has had other appointments with the UN in East Timor and Cambodia. Peter has a Ph.D. in history from Monash University, and he's a valuable member of the International and Area Studies academic program here at Berkeley, where he teaches courses on political transitions in the Middle East, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and the Gulf states. He will introduce our special guest today. Please join me in welcoming Peter and Dr.
Thank you, Emily, for that generous, overly long introduction. Most of my class is here, so I won't hold much more of the limelight here. It's my delight to have Dr. Mouayad Al Windawi here to join us today. He has a terrific granular knowledge of the situation in Iraq, particularly as it pertains to current events, ISIS, Daesh, and future trajectories. Full disclosure, when I was scrambling in Iraq in 2008-2009, trying to make sense of Arab-Kurd issues, I had the good fortune to meet Dr. Windawi, and he was remarkably helpful in pointing me in the right direction and giving me some very good advice throughout that process. Dr. Windawi has a Ph.D. from Reading University in politics, is a recognised academic in Iraq, has written and been part author of more than 60 papers on every dimension of Iraqi history, and is certainly well qualified to talk about these issues with us today. In the last few years, he's played quite an important role working with UN OCHA in Amman, Jordan, where, among other things, he's had to look at this question of how to get humanitarian assistance and aid into ISIS areas, working on contingency planning in the event that ISIS is to withdraw from Mosul. On what basis will the Iraqi government, the UN international community come in behind all of this? So, and also very deep experience with the tribal configuration in all of these areas, including a number of the leading sheikhs and so forth. I've asked Dr. Windawi to talk to this topic for about 30 to 35 minutes. There's so many questions, I'm sure, which will emerge from that, and then I'll curate a session afterwards. Again, so much is unfolding and happening both in Syria and Iraq, particularly the last couple of weeks, that one could say that the strategic dimension is changing yet again. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Windawi.
Thank you. It is my honor to be here today. every expert would like to come and stand here from Middle East, I'm sure. This presentation was followed step by step, week by week, since Daesh arrived to Iraq in last June. Working in this country closely, keep experts like us, and I am, maybe you didn't refer that, I am a retired police general, worked for over 25 years in research and development office in Ministry of Interior, Iraq, so give me a lot of knowledge. Again, I was teaching in Iraqi universities over 25 years. So that means I know many people on the ground, and even of these Daesh fighters, who they are, what they are, I know personally some of them. And even the Khalifa, I know his family closely. It was a surprise to me, it was a family mostly secular, someone like him became so fanatic. There is a reason behind that, why he became a fanatic. I'm happy because, yes, sir.
May you speak up, please?
Up, all right. Recently, I heard a statement here in this country, which I used to say since 2004-5. Many of these Daesh fighters, in fact, we were calling them the gradual of Buke Institution for Postgraduate Terrorists. And Buke was a detainee center existed by the American forces in Basra. Recently, I hear this word repeated in this country by these candidates for the presidency coming election. However, let us go, because Peter says I have very few minutes, and I know you are well informed. Therefore, I will go and stop on the very important issue. You remember that in last June, 800 fighters were able to crash 6 Iraqi heavily equipped American-made equipments in just like this, 6 divisions. Few days, they took over more than the third part of the country. The colors can tell the government, a controlled area, the Kurdish areas, and areas of control. Also, as a Pan-Arabist, I dreamed long time to demolish the Sykes-Picot border lines. Unfortunately, I didn't, and none of the Arabs do. It is a Chechenese who came with his bulldozer and removed the border, and people for the first time traveling freely on both sides. Instead of going to Baghdad, Daesh changed their mind. We were not able to read it. So we discovered that they hit the Kurds. So, you know, Peter, we worked together on this disputed area. If you examine the ground, Daesh took over only the areas that of the majority Arabs. They didn't go through or even further north to areas of the Kurds. So this is areas mostly dominated by the Arabs. So that was, for the first time, they tell us that even the Peshmerga, well equipped, could be defeated in 1 week time. Also, to me, as expert, I used to spend few hours every week sitting, talking with the drivers who are traveling from Mosul to Amman. I sit them with the coffee shop, tell me how many checkpoints, how much you pay, how much is safety. Everyone told me it was easier to us now to travel from Mosul to Amman in 7 hours. Mosul to Jordan, 7 hours. In the past, we were able to pay a lot of bribes to the army checkpoints. But also, I was doing this IMAP system to discover how they move from Iraq to Syria, then to Turkey. Today, you can travel from Mosul to Turkey easily. There is no that much difficulties. They have their own ways. You will see them up later. But this area also, this is my map. This is the main headquarters of IS. I could able to identify. Later was hit by the international coalition. And this arrow tell us how they are traveling which areas to reach Jordan. You know, Maliki, former prime minister, for 4 years he was not listening to the Sunnis' demands. It was so simple demands: release the detainees, give us a reasonable share power in the government. But he crashed the demonstration after 2 years, and that facilitated to Daesh to come and took over Iraq because the environment was willing to receive them. Those who fought the American soldiers from 2003 to 2011, when they pulled them out, were Iraqis. And the same groups, as you will see later, kept fighting back Maliki non-professional forces, forces based on a sectarian ethnic background. Therefore, let us watch easily how much this developed within a couple of months. So I think maybe some people say, what happened? The six division occupants taken, instead of going to Baghdad, they went back to Raqqa and took over Raqqa. So they expanded in Raqqa in a few weeks' times, and this is their map, and it remained as it is since last September. Only a few changes took place when the Iranian went in. You'll see later. When we talk about IS, we talk about regional involvement. We talk about the Turks, we talk about the Iranians, we talk about the Arabs, international coalitions, and now the Russians. So the international coalition start to bombard first in Iraq, later jump to Turkey, to Syria. The areas where they were really want to keep them away was the two dams, one in Mosul and one in Haditha. These two dams are still under the Iraqi government control because the importance of these two dams for the life of the people in the country. Now the reaction. The Shias' reaction started when the Grand Ayatollah Sistani issued the fatwa of jihad. This is the first time last few centuries a fatwa of this kind could be existed, but we have to remember the Sunnis also already issued a fatwa of defending themselves. So we have two fatwas. Now religion involved in politics and war. We have to be very careful to understand what's going on these both sides. So the fatwa were able to help the Iraqi forces to defend Baghdad first, and second, to clean the Daesh forces from areas. But unfortunately, instead of fighting only Daesh, we witness a new development, which is cleaning people. So the Shias militias, who they are over 50 names, led mostly by main 5 groups, backed by the Iranians, accused already even before Maliki left his office, even before Daesh came in, these forces already on the ground. I'm talking about Badr, I'm talking about Asa'ib al-Haq, Hezbollah, and other units. So they start to clean the Sunnis from here and there. Unfortunately, the Kurds also, with American backing, they were able to clean the Shammars Arabs of Iraq in Rabi'a north, and this is a new phenomenon. So the Kurds kept even recently cleaning the Arabs from Kirkuk. This is for the future. Now let us see who's the fighters. These are the fighters in Iraq. The government forces packed with non-Iraqi forces, the Iranian Basij and generals. We have Soleimani and Hezbollah Lebanon with Shias militias. And Iraqi opposition movement of the past also packed with other armed groups. In the middle, IS, tribes, and the Kurds. The Kurds, for the first time in history, current history, they were able to win. Py.D, the Syrian, the Pajak, Iranian, and the PK Turks, all of them united to fight back Daesh in Iraq and later, as you see, in Syria. We have the same presentation doing on Syrian side. Who is fighting who in Syria? But I am looking for those who are fighting on both sides. As you see, Daesh is here and there, these two forces also, and that fighting here and there. So there is a unity of battlefield from this point of view. Daesh is not Qaeda. Daesh is a state. Therefore, Zarqawi were not able to build such a diagram of offices. It is easy to see a traffic police Daesh in Mosul charging you if you do any wrong things on the street. So also this high level divided to low level structure of a district and sub-districts. And we have to imagine this is kind of diagrams that exists from Afghanistan up to Boko Haram in Africa, and in Sinai in Egypt, and in Libya. I think Peter knows more than that. And these are the militias. Let us go to the current situation. Of course, we have to think of the humanitarian impact. The numbers increased by time both in Syria and Iraq. Now, according to our UN reports, this is the biggest humanitarian crisis in the history of humankind. We are talking about 18 million people in need both in Syria and Iraq. And we have over 12 million displaced people both in Syria and Iraq. We have 3 million Iraqi abroad. We have 6.5 million Syrians abroad. So this is a really a crisis with less funds by world community, and both the Iraqi government and the Syrian government are not ready to pay anymore to those displaced people. They will live third winter in Kurdistan. The majority of the 3,250,000 Iraqi, mostly Sunni-Arab, are now going to be for the third time, third winter in Kurdistan. I try to work here with my relative NGOs for human assistance. This area, no one is working. Non-international organization for humanitarian assistance working there. It is easy to reach there and there. But we are able to reach understanding with fighters and with commanders and the emirs of Daesh to let us go in and assist people. All those newborn baby received no vaccine they required since last year. The surprise is on the Syrian side. We were able to reach areas through international organization of humanitarian assistance. We were able to push them from Turkey to Al-Bukamal nearby West Anbar. And now we are going in Iraq, not from Baghdad, but coming from the Turkish side. The war, some of you maybe in this room served in this part of West Baghdad. The war is not that far from Baghdad International Airport. We are talking about deep west Baghdad up to the border with Jordan. Daesh is still there. The new development, which I used to talk with the American generals, whether in Pentagon, those coming to Amman. The main development started when the Iranian Soleimani and Hadi Amir of Badr were agreed to launch a major offensive from the border with Iran up to Tikrit here. It was taken with the commanding of the Iranian general to this part of Tikrit and then went in despite the resistance of the American general not to allow Shiite militias go deeply in Sunnis area. Also, they failed to create the so-called the National Guard. So they keep changing their plans from time to time, and finally they have nothing in hand just to reinforce the tribal elements. And this is not successful. Program 2, because it is not an institution. It is not enough to give arms to people. You don't know how they will fight, who they will fight. So the American has no real vision how to keep the militias away, the Shiite militias from deep Sunnis area. Therefore, we see there is some kind of lull of fighting in Ramadi. You will see the area later because the American commanders in the field, they don't like the Shiite militias go in Ramadi. Ramadi is something important in the history of American war in Iraq. It is here General Patrios discovers his program of awakening. And it is here they have a good contacts with the tribal leaders. And it is here the tribe leaders like money too. So it is easy to clean Daesh maybe before going to Nineveh. This is a battlefield of Tikrit. Daesh is still north of Beji. Beji phase of fighting maybe going down. And Daesh is still operating South Kirkuk. There are 2 oil fields here. They took one last week again. They lost it before. And this part of their finance support coming from oil fields in North Beji and West Kirkuk, one in Mosul. I am not talking about Syria too. They have a lot in Syria. So they could manage over $3 to $5 million a day. I'm not talking about the tax payment and other issues. But they keep paying their monthly payment to their fighters. The Iraqi fighters getting about $400. Non-Iraqi fighters get $800. If he married more than a wife, he can get more. If he has more kids, he could be paid more. But the fuel are mostly paid free to them. This is not that good fuel, but it is a fuel can run cars and mostly come from the Syrian side. This is a battlefield at the moment in Anbar. The city is still under Daesh control. The Iraqi forces trying to come to the city from this side of the Anbar University, already destroyed like Tikrit University before. So they would like to go there. The Iraqi forces came from Tikrit up to the highway leading to Amman. So this is the area. There is no change last 3 months on this ground battlefield. And here it is the same area. The main fighting at the moment away from Beji, it is Fallujah. Everyone knows Fallujah. Fallujah another time under daily destructions by the Shiite militias. The total civilians who were killed till now, last 2 years, over 4,000, mostly women and kids. The fighters are away from that kind of bombardment by the militias, who heavily accused by the Iranian-made missiles and rockets, and the Iraqi government paying them back this supplies. The American forces in Habbaniya air bases training the Sunni fighters here, but they are not in big number at the moment. They need more time before going to Ramadi. They are not able to go through this land. They have to cross the desert up to this area in Ramadi. So we need, I think Abadi needs time before see any success led by the American generals who are really challenging hard the Shiite militias led by those backed by the Iranian who insist to go in even away from the American advice. Now they are calling to the prime minister that the Americans should leave the ground. We have to call the Russians to come in. This is part of a new policy developed last few weeks because the Russians went into Syria according to a cooperation with Assad and Tehran. Now they are calling everybody to get them in. Previously we knew that they created the so-called intelligence command operational room. The Russians already there through armed equipments shipped to Iraq soon after last July, but they are not by their forces at the moment in Iraq. Few contacts, maybe through the Soviet embassy in Baghdad. We do believe maybe they will come because Prime Minister under huge press to let them in. This will depend how the American embassy in Baghdad react. They send them back this week. A gentleman, he is an Iraqi, but he's American too, to lead to be appointed the General Secretary of the Cabinet in Baghdad. This is the areas between the Quds and Daesh, the green line. But let us stop. This is an important issue. First, is this Prime Minister able to solve all the problem? No. Is he free to do whatever? No. because those packed Iranian militias are increasing their influence. Is he has enough capacity financially? No, because the Iraqi economy already collapsed, because Iraq became the first country around the world in corruptions. Is he a decision maker? It seems no. He recently called for a general reform, but after 3 months, nothing happened. Therefore, these demonstrations in Baghdad, everywhere in the south, became under attack by some of these influential militias who doesn't like this reform be against their leaderships, mainly those who are corrupted or politicians very well known are corrupted or they were behind what happened in the country when Daesh went in. So, but we believe that we should help him to stay and be more courage in his office, fighting back corruptions, do some kind of reforms, because we have no alternative if he go. There is no a man can replace him. Maybe if he collapses, that means Maliki will go back, and here we have a different environment which will not helping maybe in the future. Now, the Sunni Arabs dilemma, as ever, they are divided in so many groups. The Kurds play the game, the Shias playing the game to keep them weak, not a real partner in the system. When the American, not like the British, they formed a three-partner system based on sectarian ethnic background, not as the British did in 1921, a one-nation state. The problem is, last 10 years, all these elected Sunnis were not really controlling their own community, because there are so many others should be come in, but neither the Kurd nor the Shias like them to see in the constitutional organization in Iraq, mainly the cabinet and the chamber. At the moment, many comes to Washington, goes to Paris, Germany. We are advising as advisor that if you want to reduce the time, the cost, and less blood, we have to form a council, a body, a real body that we could say this is the real representative of the Sunnis Arab, and these people should be the third partner in the Iraqi political process. And among these people are the fighters, the armed groups. In fact, Daesh killing more Sunnis than the Shias. Those who are suffering are the Sunnis, not the Shias, not the Kurds. The 3.5 million displaced people are Sunnis. Those who tortured are Sunnis. And those who left the ground, the old fighters who were fighting since 2003 up to last year, because Daesh refused. Only Daesh flag, others should go. But when the time comes for Daesh to go, we have to deal with others. Who is the others? It is the same warriors or the same armed group. We have to sit and talk, because this is the main people should be came to be part of the Sunni representative in the future. International coalition also has a problem. The airstrikes, unfortunately, hitting the Sunni Arab infrastructure, not only Daesh commands, because both on Syria and Iraq, we are talking about area, mostly Sunni Arab. And here, the casualties on both sides. In Iraq, everyone hitting them. The international coalition, Iraqi air forces, Iranian generals there, the Kurds, and the Shias militias. And there is no one would like to tell anything about political side of the problem. Everyone is talking about jihad and about fighting back Daesh. Even here, when we talk with people from this country, they were telling me, tell us what do you think about the future after Daesh. I can't answer such silly questions. Tell me what we have to do now in order to know what will be tomorrow. This is the way we are thinking. But no one would like to tell us what we should do now. For me, I have to give advices how we could solve the problem easier in a short time with a less costing. but no one seems want to listen now for such a project, neither in the government nor in the Shiite quarter or Sunnis, and even now in the region. The conflict in Iraq, it is not an Iraqi or Syrian problem. It is a regional and international problem. Therefore, we have to look all the parties what they want. So if the Iranian involved more in Syria and Iraq, that means Turkey could be involved more. But we know in Turkey there are problems at the moment. They have to fight back PKK, or they are aware from the Kurdish development in Kobani's areas, or the Turkish Alawite. We don't know Erdogan what will happen if he didn't succeed to form a government based on a majority one more time. So we have to think now what will happen in the coming weeks if he doesn't make it. All indication says maybe he's not. But also the Turkish mentality, not that away from the Iranian. If the Iranian want to win here and there, why the Turks not? This is the old Ottoman areas. And therefore, also you see why the French trying to put their nose, because this is history. Now the Russians is here again. The Russians were able to keep Saddam Hussein in 2003, but they didn't. Now they would like to keep Assad, definitely not, but they would like to keep part of their interest. Their interests were not in the Syrian economy, because we know what's kind of economy there. They want to keep their power or influence within the Syrian army. Here comes something to tell us. We have to find the glue. Now, everyone wants to use the Free Army forces, Syrian oppositionists, with the remaining Syrian forces to be the partner of the international coalition to fight back Daesh. This is a big and very long timey program. It is not going to happen in a night or so. But in Iraq, the Americans think they are relaxed because they have partners, the Kurds, the Shiites, and some of the Sunnis. They are bothered by the Iranian demands. But also, after a year and a half, they have not managed yet a clear policies how to deal with the Sunnis area away from the harshness of the Kurd or the Shiites. So in Iraq, maybe they are more relaxed, but the problem in Syria. Syria, as you see, they are paying the cost, 350,000 Syrians killed. This is the Iraqi UNAMI numbers. Don't believe them. They are not telling you the truth. Put them 4 times increasement. So this is a very conservative numbers last year. For myself, this is really misleading numbers. They are not counting the people who killed in areas under Daesh. If you read the Iraqi media, they are talking about thousands and thousands. They are not counted in this number. So increase this time 4 times these numbers in order to reach the reality of the crisis. Humanitarily, this is the problem at the moment in Iraq. You see how many people in need. We have another diagram showing about the Syrian side. Fallujah, this is Ramadi battlefield. Everyone interested in Ramadi should know that Iraqi forces only here, Habbaniya, and comes to fight and hit there. The main work of your forces at the moment is training here in Habbaniya military forces. They needed a month to keep the Shiite militia out of this military air forces. Sorry. Yeah. As you see, they come here and then hit from there. All the city, the entire city, up to the border with Syria under Daesh control. Reform, we went through. Mosul, Maliki was in charge of these messy things, but no one can bring him to the court. He is more than a man could be touched. Only things he and Ayad Allawi and the prime minister get them out in order to reduce the cost. Each gentleman has more than one fighter, 1,000 bodyguards. others. Unfortunately, those who pay the cost of this war is academic staff. They are on demonstration today, yesterday, because the government were not able to touch these politicians, costing a lot of Iraqi budgets. So they found the academic staff could be given less. And this is the first time in history these Iraqi academics go on strike. Let us finish. This is the ground in Syria. This is where we are crossing border humanitarian assistance. We have problem. The world community plan is to be $5 billion this year assisting the Syrians, $1.5 billion to the Iraqis, nothing received, only $3 billion, which is not enough to the Syrians. With the Iraqi case, $1.5 billion, only $450 million, 200 from Obama, 200 from the Prince of Kuwait, but only deposit was only 45% only, and the year is going to be closed. So there is a humanitarian lack of support. This is the ground. We are monitoring every single part. Now, as you see, the major fighting in the state of fighting back Daesh, the Russian went in. This is the crisis humanitarian in Syria. Now, this is the ground according to war zone maps. This is a good institution here in this country. Really, we have to follow them day by day, check and analyze what they are doing. So the American is hitting there, but the Russians hitting there. So if we go back to the map, see why, see here. Again, here because the government want to control this area. This is maybe for the future maps of Syria, north. But also they are hitting the Free Army, which the American looking to be a partner in fighting back Daesh. So if they hit them there, who will fight Daesh later? The only 22,000 Kurdish fighters who fought in Kobani with few thousands of Arab. This is what Obama said 3 weeks ago in a conference in Washington. So the 25,000 fighters coming from Kobani to hit Raqqa around, not the city. This is the plan. But it seems he is changing his rule. To us, as people from the region, we feel this administration has no vision enough. They have no strategy. Their strategy is no strategy, as we agreed. But maybe after the election, we could witness a new arena of US involvement in this part of the world. No one will touch the area until we see who is winning, Trump or who. Anyway, Trump gave us a new statement yesterday. I think everyone heard that. The world could be safer if Saddam and Gaddafi still alive. This is a new mentality, a new message going to the area. So let us see, but this is a long time, a year and a half to build a new strategy. That means these people will remain under Daesh control with this killing, and we don't know how to get out. But the future require a regional, international conference to solve the problem. The Arabs also there. We are not talking about them a lot. We have to understand where is the Saudis, where is the Emirates, the Kuwaitis, and the Jordanian who are paying even more. So there are policies developing throughout the coming year. No one can tell what's going on politically at the moment. Okay, let them hit the areas. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Windawi. I must say you did a fantastic job of depicting this messy, tangled web. I hope, honestly, that people are counting on Donald Trump to come to the rescue for the region. But I think it's an important point, though, the observation that you made about the impressions of current US policy under this administration and how people feel very much in the region. There isn't a vision. And I think that's actually quite accurate. I'm not criticising necessarily the Obama administration in this context. There's what part of this very complex puzzle does one try and actually engage with, whether it's Israel-Palestine, whether it's the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action with Iran, whether it's working with Turkey, disentangling its interests with ISIS, or indeed going back over old ground with Iraq in terms of this vexing question, as yet unsolved, of how to reconstitute the Iraqi community in some kind of stable political arrangement which has Sunni and Shia and Kurd participating on the basis of mutual respect and equality. But I just wanted to start off by asking you just one question, which is related the way you presented, and indeed the incredible detail from your maps, is that in fact it doesn't look like ISIS or Daesh is going anywhere anytime soon. Could you comment on that? Would you agree with that statement? Is it a mid-term to long-term problem, or is it something that, if the region pulled together, ISIS could be dealt with?
Yes, Peter, I think everyone could easily realize that if we study the maps well. As you see on the Iraqi side is different from the Syrian side. In Iraqi side, the fighting is heavy. We have 1,200,000 Iraqi military and security forces, packed with around 120,000 Shiite militias, supported by the Iranians and the Kurds, also Peshmerga fighting. So the challenge of Daesh in Iraq is different from that in Syria. We are talking with the people on the ground daily. How's your life in Syria? They said we are happy. Because no one is attacking their areas. The Syrian army is busy with Nusra, with Free Army, north and south. If you are following the Syrian army operation against Daesh, nothing. And the Kurdish forces stopped after Kobani taking back. Maybe they are ready for another job. Here is the American, they are not listening to anyone. And the life of these Iraqis in Sunni Syria, 3.5 million away, 5 million under. So Daesh strategy is not to keep cities in their hand. Why I lose my men if I can't keep it? So their strategy is to leave the town if there is a real intention to take them back from the other side. It happened in Salah ad-Din. You can watch that easily last June, July. They didn't fight. Neither in Tikrit, but they fought aggressively in Beji until last week, because there is a refinery there. There is oil there, you see. And also their strategy is just hit and run. So why I have to keep these cities in my hand? But areas like Anbar, run by Iraqi former army generals, and they know their area, and they are causing the popular mobilization forces a lot of losses. Last week, over 100 killed there. North Salah ad-Din, the same issue. And also from time to time, Daesh, when they feel they are in the corner, they bring their suicide bombers. You can't believe that they have in their storage over 200 guys to be used if they are under a real press. So whenever there is opportunity to kill more people, they get one of these to go in his vehicles and do the job. In Syria, nothing like that. So let us expect, after a year and a half, what the government of Iraq took back. Only this area in Diyala up to Salah ad-Din. And this because the Iranian, not because the international coalition. Can you see? So maybe something could happen before the end of this year, which I don't believe, in Anbar, but definitely the Battle of Nineveh next year. Next year we have just 2 months, but let us say not before the end of winter. That means after March. Iraqi has no capacity, no reserve enough to be sent there. So Also, the American generals want something to be on their way in Mosul, because that will lead to the Syrian side. So in Iraq, they are so busy. In Syria, they are so happy, by the way.
Thank you. Well, so I'll open the floor now to any questions that are there and take them. So,
I don't know if you're familiar with Michael Weiss and Hassan, who've written about Daesh and such. But their argument is that essentially Daesh is the old Saddam Hussein's military, except for al-Baghdadi, who's almost just a figurehead on top, and that it is very competently being run. Is that true?
I think we have to modify that. Everyone talking about the 22 or the 13 non-regional fighters. We are talking about Chechens, Afghans, Europeans, Africans. This is a non-Iraqi or Syrian fighters. They be recruited for some reasons. We know that no one would like them to go back to Europe or so. But who's the fighters from this area to that area? I'm talking about hundreds of thousands. I'm not talking about the 30,000s. Who are these people? At least on Iraqi map, you saw, I'm talking about the armed group established after 2003 up to 2011 until the day when Daesh arrived. When Daesh arrived, the environment was ready to receive them because Maliki was not trying to deal in a good way with the Sunni-Arab. So all these fighters were able to reach understanding with Daesh fighters. But at the following day, they discovered that Daesh doesn't like them. So they start to kill them. These people now underneath the ground, either killed, run away, but waiting when the time comes to come up again. The former generals of Iraqi army are these people who graduated from Book Academy for postgraduate terrorists. And those who graduated from the Iraqi police and army detainee center. These generals either humiliated, tortured, isolated, and paid nothing after the war. What they have to do? I know some of them even heavily tortured everywhere. They change, they grow as pan-Arabists and Ba'athists. But in such environment, after 2003, they change. They have nothing with the Ba'ath party, for example, or with the Naqshbandi army, the Sufis fighters. They are just looking for a revenge. That's all. Meanwhile, the Ba'ath party is suffering of Daesh because they took half of their commanders in custody. They took all the Nineveh military council who were fighting Maliki. They are in custody. So these fighters leading Daesh, the Iraqis, we have to make discussion because we still have a problem with everyone when we talk about who is Daesh. International coalition hit all the areas because this is Daesh. Meanwhile, for me, I am just identifying those real Daesh elements. I'm not talking about the others who are tens of thousands fighting back previously Maliki, American before them, and now the Shiite militias. They would like to defend their towns. You know the news was telling you, wherever the popular mobilization go in, they clean, they destroy the infrastructure of Sunnis areas. So they're fighting back. And here we have to think how to win back these people. Unfortunately, no attention paid by anyone how to win these fighters. As expert, I could win them easily if I convince them there is a real political program for a good future. They will leave Daesh because they are, in their mind, they are not a real fanatic Muslims. They suddenly found themselves, and as the government recruiting Shiite militias because they pay them, Daesh also paying. So they're recruiting these young people. I hope this is enough. Okay.
okay, yeah.
I have a question about the concept of reconciliation as far as Iraq reconciliation within Iraq and also with Turkey. As I'm sure you know, Turkey has been bombing Iraq this fall, started I think 5 weeks ago, but as most, they said we're going to bomb Daesh also, and then they just hit unlimited headquarters, didn't actually hit any ISIS camps. So that's a question of, reconciliation with Turkey, the Kurdish issue, and then also what would Iraqi reconciliation look like, and what would that mean for the Kurds, particularly for people, which is very interesting.
It needs a special question to answer. It is a big issue to answer, but briefly, when we talk about reconciliation, from my perspective, it means a reconciliation between the society altogether.
What society?
I mean, every Iraqi groups, every Iraqi parties, at least between the three partners. A reconciliation between a government and opposition, this is not a reconciliation, because the crisis is bigger than a crisis between a government and opposition. It is a crisis between acknowledgement of living together between the three parties. First. Second, when you talk about the Turks has nothing here. They're enjoying $12 billion from Iraqi economy in Kurdistan, as the Iranian enjoying $17 billion of Iraqi budget. But the Turks has a problem with the PKK, and PKK now not necessarily wide world looked as a terrorist group. They are sitting in conferences, they're guys, women, and they are fighting in Iraq, getting support of international coalition against Daesh. In Syria too, what happened when Kobani, it is PKK, PYD, PJAK, Iraqi Peshmerga, all of them fighting there, and they got international coalition support. The Turks are aware of this border with them, Syrian-Turks border, and the future of Kurdistan. Many believe, and I do, there is this area not ready yet for a separation, because a separation requires the Iranian and the Turks approval too. So it is too early to talk. And now the Kurds have problem. Kurdistan split it, as I was talking with Peter, Erbil under the Iranian influence, and Soleimani under Iranian influence, and Erbil under the Turks' influence. So let them first finish their problem at the moment between their leaderships. I mean Talabani party, Barzani, and Guran.
Yes, please.
Sorry, so Goran got kicked out of Erbil like 2 years ago, right? They were kicked out of their offices, and a bunch of news stations were shut down. And there have been protests in Kurdistan and Iraq for the past couple of weeks, a lot of student-led protests, and this past weekend actually bullets were fired at protesters. But when you talk about the Kurds, you talk about them as one entity until just now you identify different parties. The Peshmerga units that we talk about are separate units. There are PYD units and there are KDP units and PUK units, and that was an issue when sending units to Kobani. They didn't know who to send until very last minute. But when we talk about Iraqi reconciliation, what incentive do Kurds have to continue to be part of Iraq? I mean, I don't understand that. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's just because of my background, but after Halabja, there's very, very little reason, there's very little justification for the Kurds to want to be part of a state that so actively tried to exterminate them.
I do believe for the timing, the interest of the Kurds to stay within one Iraq. Because yet even the Kurds themselves are not solidly united. Yeah. And now as you see how much the two camps are in a big competition. The new generation are really looking for a real system, not a heavily corrupted system based on Talabani or Barzani ways. We know what's going on. And it is the time come for them to be re-represented away from the domination of these 2-3 families. But the Iraqis themselves doesn't like to see the Kurds playing their own game away from the interests of the country. It is not fair that you say Kurdistan for me and I could share you with the other remaining Iraq. This is not workable anymore. Therefore, you see from time to time there is some kind of disagreement. Yes, the Turks help the Kurds to get oil out, but Barzani, prime minister, will be in Baghdad because also they have problem with the crisis of the budget. and understanding should be reached. And Iraqi, she is well coordinating with the Iranian, and the Iranian well coordinating with the Kurds of Sulaymaniyah. So the Kurds of Sulaymaniyah won Halabja governorate, so they have 2 governorates, and Barzani has another 2 governorates. So the split already existed ever. Who was talking about unity? No one. Only the Kurdish nationalists says that. To me, I said no. We have 2 administrations. It is the West who kept them on the same ship last 20 years. And it is the West who could be well listened by them. You have to remember, a single Peshmerga moved in advance unless the Abashi, US Abashi, flying over his head. We know that.
Yeah. One there and then there. Yeah.
You implied, if I understood you correctly, that Daesh's finances come largely from the sale of oil. Is that correct? I would like to know, in any case, what their finances are and who is buying the oil, and whether the Saudis are playing a role in the financing of it.
Okay, the resource of the finance. First, we have oil. Second, the heritage of the area, stealing, getting them sold. Tax payment.
It's heritage.
Yeah, the heritage. The tax payment taken by themselves from the people. We know oil is the most important. And we know what happened when the airstrikes tried to destroy this resource of money. But if you talk to me, who's the seller, who's the buyer, I can tell you, frankly, the smugglers are the Kurds, and they well known in Kurdistan, and the buyers are the Turks. And everyone knows where the oil go. Everyone knows.
The price of oil is plummeting. Is this having any effect?
No matter how much they are selling the price, no, they get money. We are not talking about a huge money to be spent every day. But do you know that Daesh has contacts with companies around the world? Okay, I give you one example. You heard about BBC program, the cars, okay? I will tell me from where they get the chlor to give a good water to the people. Ask the Chinese companies. They have ways to deal. The Chinese company is dealing with Daesh and through mediators to offer chlorine to get people a good water to drink. This is another example. So don't worry, we are not talking a big country need a lot of finance. Yes, please.
Thank you for coming, Dr. Windawi. My question is would relate to the Shia militia, because you basically combine all the 30 militia. And the problem is that Ayatollah Ali Sistani mentioned that all people of the society, the Sunni, the Shia, the Kurds, everyone must join to defend the land of Iraq, because after all, we're the citizen of Iraq, and one's life matters, whether Sunni or Shia. So in a recent interview with Hadi Amri, he is the head of Badr organization, one of the biggest Shia militia, said that we are willing to work on a reconciliation with the Sunni tribes, but not with the Sunni leaders, which is about 18 to 20 Sunni leaders who are living in Jordan, living in Mansion, and leaving their whole tribes in Anbar and Fallujah. He is willing to have a discussion, but what are the essentials then? What is the government must do in order to bring those people into the negotiation table? Because what we see is that if we don't work with the Sunni basically, they just lose their loyalty to the people of Iraq or to Iraq itself, and they just join a radical group to revenge or to defend themselves. How can we come together on the table to discuss how can we have?
This is the main questions every day I am hearing in Amman, or coming from my students in Iraq, or even from my colleagues, my citizens who are living in the state. You'll see soon a new program on 60 Minutes. I am their consultants the last 10 years, CBS News and 60 Minutes. Mainly 60 Minutes, I am their consultants. There are 2 programs. One is already finished. You'll see it very soon on the popular mobilization. Yes, it is true. The Grand Ayatollah fatwa was quite clear. But the political Shiite groups, the Iranian themselves, took this initiative to be politicized and to be justified why these main 5 Shiite militias are leading the ground. Yes, we have Sadr Peace Corps, we have Ashura of Hakim, we have the militias belong to the Marja'iyya itself, packed by the Marja' himself. But we are mainly talking about the main active 5, Asaib al-Haq, Badr Org, Kataib Imam Ali, and Kataib al-Khurasan, and Hezbollah. These packed totally by the Iranian. If you go to YouTube and see the battles of Tikrit, you will see all the equipments at that moment Iranian made. Yes, they use the Humvees. IS used the 3,500 Humvees. They took it from the Iraqi forces. But these militias using Jeep, other equipments supplied especially for them away from the Iraqi forces, away from the Iraqi military command, and led by the Iranian general. So therefore, many pressed at that time the Grand Ayatollah to give more talks about what he meant. So basically, it was the political Shiite group addressed this fatwa for more killing and more intervention in politics. On Sunnis, Hadi Amri, yes, he can talk. But what happened last 5 years? They are talking with Sunni clergies and with Shiite tribes easily, but they are not really influencing their own community. Who's influencing their own community? Others. Let him go to those 10, 20 sheikhs living in Erbil or Turkey or Amman. They will settle down the situation. You can buy everyone in less than $30,000. The sheikhs remind us the sheikh of the 20s or 30s in Iraq when they left their lands and went to Baghdad, and by time they lost their influence on their tribes. But these sheikhs are involved militarily. They have people in. Therefore, yesterday my center carried a roundtable on what's the problem of the constitution. That was in Beirut. So all those participants accuse us as terrorists. Can you believe that? Thank God I am here. Otherwise, I will be listed.
Good question, we'll come back to that. Now we had a couple over here. Oh, Nick, ma'am, and there, we'll go there. Yeah.
Hi, so I'm just wondering, we haven't spoken much about how Jordan plays into this conversation. Just wondering if you have any general thoughts about the security of Jordan, concerns that the Jordanian officials have. What's become of Jordan?
Okay, Daesh is just here. I think less than 1 kilometer. And Daesh, as you see in this map, they have their checkpoint here. Sorry. At the border between Iraq and Jordan, Daesh has a checkpoint away from the border gate around 20 kilometers. Here they are exercising their tax system and their rules of traffic of the trades between Iraq and Jordan. You know, the border gate here and Daesh is there. I put this. And they get their money and tax. Jordan heavily involved on the ground on Syrian side. On the Iraqi side, let us say intelligence, coordinating with the Americans and now with the French, of course. So southern Syria is the main field of the Jordanian operation because this is crossing border. But militarily and politically, let me frankly, they are more involved with Nusra. Many of the Nusra fighters are basically Jordanian. Some of them still under control, and this gives you why sometimes Nusra are changing their stance here or there. But not all of them. And at least 2,000 or 1,800 of Nusra fighters come from Jordan. The future of Nusra will depend about the competition among their own leaders. You know, some of them left and some of them right. And also how the Free Army could deal with them. Therefore, Jordan at the moment really is suffering because the longest of the crisis in Syria, and they lost $50 million a month. The trade with Iraq from Aqaba to Iraq stopped totally. Last 4 months, no traffic anymore, so they are losing. And also, finally, the human crisis. They have over 1 million. They should be paid $1 billion by the international community. They are not receiving this money maybe this year or next year. So how Jordan will run?
1 million Syrian refugees in Jordan.
Yes, and they are not like the Turks. The Turks told me, I told Peter, we were meeting in a conference and the Turks expert, I said, what's going on? They said, we close our eyes, we ask our smugglers to get these refugees go to Europe. And you see what happened, just closing eyes. The first wave, 500,000. We are talking over 2 millions. But Jordan have 1 million, there is no place to go. So we have to help the Jordanian to running this humanitarian issue. On domestic affair, still the gap between the upper class and lower class became more and more in Jordan. No one can believe Amman is the highest cost of living in the region, even highest than the Gulf itself. Ask me, I am living in this country last 10 years. So these people used to live on a crisis. Unfortunately, they are not listening to their king well. Their king got his own ideas, we know from where. But if you want to invest, they lost the Syrian investor. When they come, they found it is difficult to invest in Jordan, therefore they ran away to Turkey. Like the Iraqis, they got with their billions of dollars. At the moment, they are not ready to invest in Jordan in large number because usually there are big crocodiles. They don't like any new fish come to the lake. So no one is investing there too. But militarily, they are heavily involved. The killing of their pilots force them to calm, at least publicly, what they are doing, because they can't bear more another pilots. It is hard for them. Yes, please.
In the beginning of your talk, you mentioned that the solution would have been a very simple solution in the beginning, that they would have included the Sunni-Arab population in decision making. Now, I am from Iraq. In fact, I am from Kirkuk, and there's nothing simple about the Iraqi problem. It has to be from the past almost century, since it was cobbled together by the British, essentially. And let's see. Listening, and I do listen sometimes to the leaders of the Sunni community, including Atiyah Najafi, who is governor of Mosul.
Yeah, Mouayad will be in Washington, yes.
Yeah, well, he was. And Saleh al-Mutlaq.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, all they did was invoke Saddam Hussein and talk about the good old days when they were in power, and talk about how they're going to finish what he started when it came to the Kurdish issue. So the idea that they would just say, okay, fine, we'll leave all that behind and just sit at a table and consider you equal, it just fantasy. The Sunni Arabs had still in their mind that they are the superior, and I think some of what you were saying, that they are the superior group and they should be in control. The way you were talking about autonomous region of Kurdistan, you said, well, I don't think they're ready for it. Why should you be deciding that?
Sorry.
Article 141, what about that?
You know, do you think if they are ready to run away from the country? They are a state, but they need to be award community recognition. Do you think if they have the opportunity to do it now, they can? I don't think so, because the region is not ready to see a Kurdish state at the moment. And it seems to me even the Kurds themselves are in disagreement on so many issues at the moment. This article of disputed area, he knows better than me because we work together. When I said this is a major populated area, look what happened in Rabia. When the Peshmerga swept out Daesh, they swept the locals also. So it is better for them to stay in an area with non-Arabs in. Okay? You are from Kirkuk. I acknowledge that yet there is no solution to Kirkuk. All the parties were going to fight each other, not because Kirkuk is a multicolored community, but because Kirkuk has, it means oil too. So it seems to me the conflict is not helping all the parties. The Sunnis acknowledging that this is their own area. They are under a severe attacks by the Shi'is and dominated by the Kurds. Peshmerga last 10 years. Don't remember who was ruling Nineveh. If you examine the outcome of each election, I could give it to you. You will find they were playing the games for their own interest. They playing the games in Kirkuk and in Mosul. And remember what happened in Diyala. The Shi'is and the Kurds, they playing the games of the election in order to win more seats, which should be given to the Sunnis. Historically, we know that Diyala is a Sunni governorate majority. Diyala.
I just want to, we're not going to solve the Arab-Kurdish dispute today, but your point is valid, and I just want to, I'm going to exercise Chair's privilege here because we've got a couple of other questions by just saying, from my perspective, that neither community until now in Iraq has been prepared to commit to a stable political compact for some of the reasons that you raised. The Sunnis haven't got over what they lost. The Kurds haven't been quite sure about how to play what was a great victory for them post-2003. And the Shia, in all of their complexity, are also unsure and on what basis they're going to trust the Sunni coming back into the system. This is it, and this is Mouayad did acknowledge this question of reconciliation has gone unanswered till now, and we're not going to unpack that today either. But I just want to get a couple more. We've got this young man here, that man there, and Rohan over here, and then you sir.
Thank you. What do you think about the relations to Israel? Do they have to fear Israel? Do Israel have to fear Israel in the next time?
Yet the most happy partner in the region are the Israelis. And many in the region believe that what's going on is a result of the Israelis' advices to policymakers in this country, and they behind of this mess. There is nothing happened yet across the border from Lebanon to Jordan against the Israeli side. Meanwhile, it is the Israelis hitting here and there from time to time. Daesh has no attention at the moment. They are so busy, not only in Iraq and Syria, they are in Africa, now in Afghanistan, other areas. So it seems Daesh, like other fanatic groups, they are not looking for Masjid al-Aqsa or Jerusalem, they are looking other areas. So the Israelis, for the time being, quiet, but they are watching, they are everywhere, their intelligence everywhere in the region. They are engaged in high-level political or intelligence coordination and cooperation. We didn't witness that the Israelis targeting Daesh too. They have no intention to bother them even. So keep them, maybe their rules when the time comes to, if there is a attention to reshape the map of the region, or their rules will be established strongly when the time of the regional and international community sit and talk seriously how to solve this problem. I am not sure it will be in the coming 3-4 years. Yes, sir.
Are there, it sounds like there's Turkey, Kurdistan, the Alawites, the Iranian Shias, the Iraqi Sunnis, and so on. There may be 7 or 8 major groups, and they're very fractured. Some of them, the Daesh seem fractured, the Sunnis seem fractured, some fracturing with the Kurds. But despite all of that complexity, is it possible to elucidate long-term interests of these groups and appeal to them on those bases? Because the way the situation is now, no one's going to get any kind of achievement of their long-term goals and live prosperously, let's say.
Yes, I agree with you. At the moment, everyone is paying the price. The small communities paying more. Here, the Christian paying a lot. In Iraq, for example, the Christian was 1.4. Now they are around 350,000. The Yazidis in Sinjar, they paid a lot, unfortunately, and the Christians in Syria too. When we talk about the Alawite, we are talking about 15% of the Syrian population.
Well, I mean the major people in the area. I don't mean the Yazidis, but I mean the major groups.
The major group.
What are their long-term interests?
I think at the moment, none of these groups has a real vision. And when I say that, if they have it, they could sit and talk. And at the moment, the war there, for example, in Iraq, between Shias and Sunnis, someone is happy to keep them fighting. Maybe by the end of the day, be more wise people. Usually.
Do you think it's a situation of attrition until finally?
Yes, this is what's going on. This is what's going on at the moment. In Syria, as you see, the situation not yet totally ruled by ethnic sectarian background like Iraq. You know, in Iraq it's too clear at the moment, Shias, Sunnis, and Kurds. Okay, but in Syria, still political issues has enough room with this sectarian ethnic conflict because we have the Free Army, we have the state itself is a secular and mostly run by the Sunnis themselves, not necessarily by the Alawis altogether. And we have a new attention of the Kurds to have their own regions of some kind of self-autonomies. South Syria is still fighting as a nationalist. In between, we have Nusra and Daesh. So it seems it needs time for Syria to recognize what kind of the future. Whenever you talk with the Syrians, they totally took the lesson of Iraq. They don't like to repeat the lesson of Iraq as a conflict based on ethnic sectarian background. In Iraq, the leaders are pressing hard people to think more on their own ethnic sectarian background, not on their background as a citizen. For me, I still feel I'm Iraqi. I belong to no one. Therefore, why I should be ruled by a country based on ethnic sectarian background?
Can I just a stable political compact has not emerged, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And the role of Iran, Saudi, and Turkey is critical in this. Their value systems are far apart. Their interests and what outcomes they want are still far apart. So until that gets sorted, it's not going to. They'll continue to interfere in their own separate ways in the affairs of these different countries.
Thank you.
But they may get there. And interestingly, I have the view that the Russian gambit just may, either through unintended consequence, provide the circumstances for that. But we've got a couple more. I'm conscious of time. We've got Rohan over here and then Lisa over there. Yeah.
I just want to shift a bit away from the internal politics of the region, more towards the leadership of ISIS. I know you mentioned how ISIS, the fighters within ISIS are usually people who don't consider themselves fanatics, and it might be a cause of money which they're getting, $400 and $800 you mentioned. I want to get into the higher up leadership. You mentioned there's Saddam Hussein's generals, ex-generals of the Iraqi army. what is the role of Baghdadi at this point? Is he just a figurehead, or is he much more than that? Firstly. Secondly, what is the core leadership below Baghdadi? I mean, are there ex-generals, or are they figureheads just like him? And is there other forces that are supporting the army from deep within?
This is a good question because we are really feel hard to follow because every day there is a special operation to kill this commander and that commander. A lot. And even the maps you are seeing on the net, maybe it is not helping you. Precisely, we have to know. In Iraq, for example, 85% are Iraqis, the fighters. Those non-Iraqis are either corps coming from Syria to join specific battlefield here and there. But on the organization, Baghdadi, relying on some Iraqis, generals in Iraq, some of them even went to serve in Syria, but on the valley of district or the Amir sub-district, in the sub-district the Amir is ruling, not the administrative side. In the district, the valley should be a high level of Daesh commanders. From time to time, we witness that he used non-Iraqis, the valley or even the prince in a specific area. But in the field, those who are in control are the Iraqis, former army officers, former Sahwa who changed, tribes leaderships, others, imams here and there. In Iraq, very few running by non-Iraqis. In Syria is different. The rule of non-Syrians are mostly dominated because the area is more quiet there. And whenever there is a challenge, he brings non-Iraqi fighters and packed with non-Iraqi corps in order to run. Recently, we watched that in Beji, they lost a lot. Therefore, they brought commanders, non-Iraqi commanders, to be more tough in their fighting. We have contacts whenever a new appointment of a high level, we know who, what, and then we dig to know who's the person. But very few Iraqi generals, by the way. I'm not talking about a big number. But the main fighters of this 80, 89, 85% are all of them well trained in Iraq-Iran war, Kuwaiti war, 2000, after, so they know. And this is their own land. And therefore, it is not hard if you want to defend your area against a possible Shiis going in, you will find someone well trained. But we can feed you if you want, if you are interested in that. Daily we have a list of maps, who, where. Yes?
One more.
Yes, please.
What are the long-term goals of the Iranians, and how likely are they to accomplish them?
You know, when Daesh went in, the Marja', the faqih in Tehran said, we have red lines in Iraq. He started with nomination of the holy shrines. Unfortunately, one of the holy shrines in Samarra, historically at the Sunnis' hand. But we have so many others in Baghdad and the main in Karbala and Najaf. Now Daesh has a plan to hit Karbala, and therefore the Iranian passage is here. They are aware coming from the desert through Nukhayb side and then penetrate to Karbala. Therefore, where is a Shii's occasion, this area closed for a month. And we know that Iranian army personnel with passage, they are here. Also, they are aware of Samarra, you know the history of Samarra. But the Iranian, not interested with this only. Remember, I said $17 billion. Iraq run the Iranian economy and the Syrian in some way or another away from the international embargo against Iran and against Syria. Therefore, we don't know where is Iraqi money gone. There is a collapse in our economy. Third, historically, the Iranian looking not only to be influencing the Shias in Iraq, but they are, this is, we'll talk tomorrow, Peter, about what's going on in Kuwait recently, in Emirat, down to Saudi Arabia. This is the Persian history. And also this kind of vision could lead us to reactions, maybe by the Turks, maybe by the other Arab countries. But I do believe not necessarily the Iranians are so strong enough. They could be suffered too if anyone wants to tackle the Iranian society, because the Iranian society already we know was kind of a combination is. However, the Iranian would now they won their nuclear fire for the time being, but also they are for no reason to stay and pay a lot in Syria. They have nothing in Syria. That was part of strategy established when they were fighting Iraq. How happened they are fighting the Ba'athists in Iraq and packing the Ba'athists in Syria? You know, doesn't work, this. Also, now they are not ready to keep Assad. They don't care. But they would like to keep part of their influence on the ground. There is a holy shrine of City Zainab in Syria. They will resign by the end. They will leave. We know. I know, you know. They will leave. Their coordination with Hezbollah one day will be finished. Don't worry.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a full 90 minutes here. Please join me in thanking
Thank you. Oh, thank you.